I can look at my wife, for example, as one of my best training partners. In our early days when we fought, you know, it's damaging. We learn to conflict better, and that takes courage and a lot of curiosity. All the work is getting out of your own way so you really can speak from your heart.
David, welcome to the Vibrant Couple. You are an Aikido master, at least you've been practicing it for the last 40 years, and you also teach relationships and NVC. Please say more about what you do.
I rarely would call myself a master in Aikido, even though I have been doing it for 40 years. It's a lifelong practice, and part of the attitude is that there's always more to learn, and I'm always beginning. So it's more of a mastering over time and
So
continuing.
are you so are you saying what your wife would say about you being not a master husband after all these years you've been married?
Yeah. Well, it certainly translates. So to answer your question, you know, my work it revolves around nonviolent communication, and as a somatic coach, really bringing the body into what we communicate, because the body has all of our history in it too, and so many resources, feelings, and it's where our heart and our, we feel meaning, etc. So I bring that into the work, and I'm also a master goldsmith. So I would call myself that, even though I rarely use the word master, but I've been doing that longer than anything. And so, how do you learn an art? How do you practice coupledom? How do you practice who you want to be? That's a lot of what I focus on, is really how to practice to build new ways of being. Because, what happens in relationships is we practice when we get triggered, which is when we have conflict, we default back into what we practiced most in our lives, which is usually things that we learned when we're younger. And those are a very unusual set of strategies, because we learn them when we're children, or when we're younger. And in those times, it's really much more difficult to access the adult world, and we have less tools. And so we develop ways to get our deep needs for, like, security and belonging and love met in some unusual ways. And those habits are really they're hard to break, because they were set in motion out of something that is deeply important, like security or belonging, things like that. Makes sense.
Makes total sense. So basically, what I'm hearing is most of us learn relations as a child, and everyone knows that children are children, not, mature adults. And most of your adult life, with a number of different practices, you've been practicing maturing and learning to relate better to yourself, your own needs, but to others, and specifically for our conversation, to your wife, and how you teach your students how to better relate in their couples.
Yeah, and I often work in groups too, mostly in
Mhm.
groups these days. But when you work in groups and you're doing this kind of intimate sharing, you know, then the learning is accelerated, because a lot of the things that we hide in ourselves, that we're most embarrassed about, are often the most common. And somehow that frees us up to go, I'm not so different than the rest. Essentially, we're talking about community there. So I like to
Yeah.
create community in the trainings I do, because it's in community where we see ourselves a little bit more clearly sometimes.
Please
Yeah.
say more about how the community supports couples.
We help each other. I see myself in relationship. It's really hard to see ourselves, in just a nuclear family sometimes, because we only get certain kinds of reflection. And the so to learn how to be present to our differences is a practice of community. To learn how to listen for that place in each of us, whether it's coupledom, which it's the same practice, in coupledom or with many people, at different times, to listen to that, to find underneath our differences the common ground we share, or our deeper needs, that place we connect. That is a faculty that we have. It's empathy. And that in as a species, at this point, it's quite atrophied. It's not how we, I believe, evolved, to be so separate with fractured communities. I don't believe that's how we evolved. We evolved in concert with each other and the environment, and how we listen to the life in each of us and the life in our environment. That is our faculty of empathy. It's a felt whole body, mind, body, self listening.
That makes us more human.
That human part of us, the needs. We all have
Yeah.
a need for belonging. It's in there. We all
Yeah.
have a need for understanding and
Yeah.
play and
I don't
integrity.
know what you're talking about.
We
Why
need it.
would we play?
We need it. We need it. And there's agreement. There's agreement.
Yeah.
You know, and but how we meet those needs,
Mm.
that's the place. Those are strategies. And again, that's basic NVC work to
Mhm.
differentiate from
Yeah.
the feeling and the meaning, that the things we call needs, and the strategies we employ. And so
Mhm.
how do we do that when we're talking to our spouse, for example? I have been married now 38 years, and
Congratulations.
thank you. Yeah, it's a feat. Um, it's a deep practice, and um, we learn to conflict better. And one of the things that I don't want to do, and I've chosen this, is I don't want to damage my wife or anyone around me. And believe me, in our early days when we fought, it's damaging.
Yeah.
And we learned together. Here's the formula for practice. One, it begins with an ignition, or something that excites you, that you go, yes, oh my gosh, I want that. And I had that when I met, and then the second piece is just getting a big picture. Well, this is who I want to be. This is what I want to do. I want to love to married forever and have family and etc. The picture, and then you gotta break it down into practices. It might just be the practice of kindness, for example, or honesty, and practice it, correct it, practice it, correct it, practice it, correct it, and do it so that you're on your learning edge. Really work it so it's not too hard and not too easy. And that's the formula for building new neural pathways, for really embodying something over time. And it takes practice and it takes commitment. So the thing that has really kept my marriage together has been, one, that work of kind of swimming back upstream to what it is that matters to me, the love that we have, and working to reconnect, regularly to that. And the other is community, where we can see ourselves in more than just each other's reflections. And I do feel that it gives more meaning to our relationship, Judith and I, in how we are together and with our family, and how we are in community. It transmits something. Um,
Do
and
you teach together?
yes, as a matter of fact, we just got back from Germany where we taught a
Hmm.
5-day training and Slovenia a 7-day training. And in those two trainings, these particular trainings, it was more like I was the lead singer and she was the support singer and musician who was absolutely just as important. While I was teaching, her presence, she added to it, and verbally, but mostly her presence and our presence together transmitted something. This is my afterthoughts of like, were those two trainings so powerful? And I think what is really powerful is it's what we practice. We do practice honesty and kindness together. And we, among many other things that, you know, space and rhythm to our relationships and so many elements. And same thing in community and mostly about being present to our differences.
I love what I'm hearing because one of the key components in the men's group I'm doing is learning to become a trustable man in the body. This is not something I'm going to bullshit with words. Is that the way I show up, I'm more and more and more trustable.
Hmm. How do you do
Yeah.
that?
Good question.
Yeah.
And so, same, it's a lifelong practice.
I can look at my wife, for example, as one of my best training partners, and the people who are more difficult in my life as really good training partners because they shed light on places in me no one else can or will, and the difficulties in the relationship, I have to look inward. And that takes courage and a lot of care and a lot of curiosity. And that's where it begins. And
Curiosity, also for me, is one of the key factors.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, how I see in relationship is building personal practices for deepening relationships. And it begins with the personal practice of courageously and caringly with that, you know, deep curiosity
Mhm.
to go inside. When you're going, "Ow, I'm so," instead of blaming or shaming someone else, you go, "What is going on inside of me? Why am I contracted here? And when did I learn to do that?" Because these places we tighten up in those, and this is the somatic work, those places we react, the reaction before we start, condemning someone else or getting mad at someone else, there's something, there are sensations and mechanisms going on that are historical in us. So a lot of my work begins with the personal practice of day by day going and listening inward to those old voices that are telling us, to fight or protect or whatever those are. Um, because, and to do that, you can't just rip these places open and say, get away from me or stop or whatever, because what you resist persists. Same basics when you're working with someone else. So, how do you listen to these places? And that's where empathy comes in, because you're listening to the life under those strategies. These are strategies that you learn. You protect your heart, or you tighten up and you learn to keep your mouth shut for good reason, probably back then.
I want to do a quick digression here.
Go
I've
ahead.
done 12 videos so far on emotional intelligence, and the
Mhm.
one that is in the works is on stonewalling. And I've been dumbfounded with how much these past 10 days have done inner stonewalling. And it's been really interesting. So, same, attuning with what is inside is the key to attuning with the outside.
Yeah, yeah. If I had to give it, in the few minutes we have, the basic
Go for it.
formula first,
Mhm.
instead of going to the, I feel sad, I feel happy, go to the sensation. When you move to stonewalling, something in your body probably tightens up. That's the first,
Mhm.
knowing where it is. Often it's like, for me, it's like right there. The second thing is going, when did you learn to do that? And if you ask yourself that question, you go, an age will come up, a time in your life, or you go, you put that on, how's that feel? How old do I feel? Oh, so you go back there. Third question would be, um, this is the courage part, is like, what was going on around that in your life when you learned to do that? And if you ask yourself these questions and are open to the answers, intuitively something will show up. And some that's where the coaching comes into, and I help people. But primarily, people can come to it if they just listen and don't brush it away. And then the fourth question is that strategy, whatever it is, what was it in service of? That's the need. And then often it'll be protection, or people didn't listen to me, so I learned to shut up. Oh, so I tightened my jaw, for autonomy, or, you know, things like that. Deep needs that we all have. And then the last piece, which is the essential piece, is going to that place and appreciating the intention of the younger you, which is to protect or to belong or to protect your heart, which maybe wasn't being honored out there. So something in you said, no, I'm going to keep this dear, without judging the strategy, because you could probably do better now. Just appreciate the intention of that younger you. And when you can do that, I'm guessing you even maybe just did that because I saw you go like this.
Yep, I did.
Yeah. Yep. And that's the beginning of a connection that you can continue to cultivate for the rest of your life. And the more you can learn to listen empathically inward, it's the same skill
Yeah.
for listening to others. So that's it in a nutshell, one piece of that deeper work, just touching on it.
Wonderful. Would love to hear how your practice of Aikido has enabled you to develop that attunement to yourself, to others, to the ability to engage and respond.
Yeah. You know, it's taught me how to practice something as a lifelong path. Everything I do on the mat is really how I want to be in life. And everything I do in life is a complete perfect metaphor for how I want to be on the mat. So I can practice who I choose to become. That's one really important piece. Another piece is that in the practice, it's a relation. Aikido is a relationship practice. You practice a lot with partners, and in conflict situations, and it's a safe place. That's the work of the sensei, the teacher, and the class, to be able to hold the space with some safety, so you can practice conflict. And the thing about this is it's physical conflict, so it really triggers people. It can. So you learn how to, one, do keep yourself safer, but also to how to work with the overloads, the overstimulation in your body, so you can relax. Because the more relaxed you are, the more aware you can be. The more relaxed you are, the more you can pay attention to the present needs of yourself and the others around you, and make choices that are not uh, over overkill, or that are disconnected. It's like what's in between of defense and offense is connection. So to be able to stay present in a certain way, to when conflict arises, to be able to be present and accept what's happening, not just agree, but accept. Go, this is happening. you know when you can relax it, when you're not relaxed, it's usually, how do I think my way out of here? But Aikido teaches, again, that whole body listening to the energetic happenings below the words, below the fist coming at you. You can feel the intention. And if you can connect to that intention, you can stop the fights generally before they start, because before that fist comes or before that word comes, there's an intention that is building to speak or to move. And if you can connect to that, which you can feel through that empathic, or in Aikido, that key field, you can connect to the motivation under the strategies.
So basically, you learn to slow things down, not in our 3D reality, but in your own experience, so that you can access finer and finer and finer things. And when you're resourced and you're present and you're listening, then you can attend directly to the need, in a couple conflict without the fight even started. Or if the fight has started, you have an ability to somehow deflect whatever attack is coming your way and respond to the need of your partner.
Yeah, I guess to really super simplify it,
Yes.
if you and I were in an argument, for example, and I was saying, something, it really bothers me when you do this, and I get so upset, and da 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 da. It's all head. And when this is going on, the rest of you is not felt. And that's how it is a lot of times in conflict, especially with those we're closest with.
It's really interesting because when you said that, I felt my body stronger, I felt my chi, and somehow I heard your words, but it didn't really matter. I wanted to connect with you in a way I could somehow calm our conversation.
That's a lovely strategy.
Yeah.
And so to be able to the simplest form, if someone asked that, well, what is an NVC? Or what, and it's like Aikido too. If I was in an elevator, we're going down, and I was like, how do I explain that? I'd probably go, all the work is getting out of your own way so you really can speak from your heart. And in Aikido, connect to your hara, your gut, really, really come from that place. Because when you move from here, everything starts to work together. When you move from here, these part of you don't entrain. So if I say to you, I really appreciate you inviting me to be here. It's been, wonderful having this conversation. And I take that and I go, you take the elevator down. And I say, thank you for inviting me. It's really important for me to have moments to share this work. It really matters to me.
Wow.
Thank you. And I don't know if you feel a difference. I feel a difference.
I feel a difference. I feel more grounded. My shoulders are more open. Time has slowed down. And I have the sense that if you and I were to get in an argument, I would be way, way, way more likely to look for common solution and then somehow fight you than I was before we started this conversation.
That's the work right there, is finding that skillful vulnerability. Because when it comes from here, those arguments, there's something different. They're not arguments. There's something different. But that's the lifelong work right there.
Yeah. So let's pretend someone, man or woman, who is watching this video, they have no martial arts training, they have no NVC training, they have no goldsmithing training, but same as you have been married 38 years. What is the one thing that you would recommend they do to basically get that ball rolling of learning to be present with each other? One thing.
Really,
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say to articulate very well what it is you care about, what matters to you, that you would take, so that when you say it, it's so beautiful you want to weep, that it really matters. Go down here, go to your gut. Your head's fine there in that conversation, but make sure it's You're standing on the ground that you stand on, and that becomes the organizing principle for everything. That's it. It's work, because that's not what we were asked growing up in school. What do you care about? Nobody's been really asked that. We don't practice that. We practice what we think.
So
So,
quick
yeah,
qualifier. Would you recommend that to someone married to a person who has strong narcissistic tendencies?
yeah, of course. People,
Wow, I would say absolutely not.
I'm saying articulate to yourself what matters to you and who you
Yeah,
want to become, because that way, whatever that other person is doing, it's going to not knock you off. If you have a strong center in what you know, you'll know when to pivot. You'll feel it. Let that go by. And you can learn to feel what's too much for your system and what's not. And because you organize around not only what you care about out in the world, but what you care about inside.
that was the best response I've ever had to my invitation to be careful to not be vulnerable with a narcissist. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it makes it you come from a place of choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, from the inside out, versus trying to figure out someone else out there, try to think what other people
Yeah.
are thinking. Good
Yeah.
luck. Drive yourself crazy. You know what I mean?
Cool. I know. Well, David, thank you very much. That was a wonderful conversation. I'm going to list your data where so people can find you in the description below. And I'm very grateful for our conversation.
Me too. Thank you very much.
If this video inspired you to practice becoming a better romantic partner, either with your current partner or with a hopeful future partner that you want to attract, please hit the like button below and subscribe so you can be notified when I publish new juicy content. And please share with all you believe would benefit from learning more about fight intelligence in a couple. I look forward to seeing you very soon.